Leo, I am delighted to be welcoming you to the channel today. How has this week been? Because it's been fucking crazy from where I sit. My timeline has pretty much been exclusively about the Brand of Sacrifice album Lifeblood that is out.
Has it really?
Yeah. Oh, mate, I haven't been able to move for it. It's so good to see, man.
Dude, it's been a busy couple of weeks. I'm so shot. But honestly, like, I couldn't be happier. I think this entire album cycle has just been like such a humbling experience, and I've just been feeling so blessed that everything just went so well. So it's been busy, but it's been good, man, you know?
Was there a particular period of time where you felt things shift a gear? Because I've been a fan since God's Hand, and while it felt like a very if you know thing at that point in time, but the singles that have come out from Lifeblood has completely swallowed that notion.
Dude, I can't even pinpoint like what it was. Like, just somewhere in the timeline of December of last year, something just clicked in the public. Like, as soon as Demon King came out, everything around us just exploded for the better. And like, I don't know how, I don't know why. But again, like, I couldn't be happier because we put so much time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears into the release. So like, to see, you know, the kind of attention that, you know, we're lucky enough to be getting now, come to light has just been so amazing. Like, totally speechless, like almost every day. I can't even believe it.
It felt like when Demon Eyes came out that things shifted. It really felt like things moved a different gear. Do you think that is testament to, actually, when we sit here now and we've got both of these records back to back, how much of Lifeblood is an extension of God's Hand, and how much of Lifeblood is a kind of a rebirth on its own terms?
It's a good question. I think doing God Hand taught us a lot musically, in terms of like what was really working within the sort of Brand of Sacrifice toolkit. And also touring that album heavily really helped with that, because we were able to sort of see visually, you know, what our listeners were enjoying from a live perspective. But I kind of like how you mentioned this whole rebirth thing, because I also see it that way. Like, you know, there are certain things that worked with God Hand, but we were able to really, you know, take the time to just delve into the Brand of Sacrifice sound a little bit more, and maybe streamline it a little bit, and align it more to where we want it to go. And yeah, just put the time in. Like, with God Hand, we really weren't able to sit back and really just analyze what we were writing, and, you know, put a whole lot of care into it and thought into it. Whereas with Lifeblood, you know, we had all this time because of, you know, the pandemic, and we weren't on the road, and we had a certain set of goals that we were really able to sort of align ourselves with. So yeah.
So, when you say you got to spend more time, is that where the added musical ideas come in? Because there is a lot more going on, and we'll get to what that means for the genre and all kinds of things like that. But for you personally, as the person who I associate with as being like the music guy in Brand of Sacrifice, like,
Sweet.
where was it about bringing those electronics in? Because deathcore has been a dirty word for so many years, and so it is kind of nice to see people doing cool and interesting new shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think, you know, we have never really been deathcore purists, in a sense where, like, we don't really care if there's more elements in the music other than like guitar, drums, bass, and vocals. I think, like, we've always sort of ushered in some sort of experimentation. Even on God Hand, there were electronic elements, although they're much more at the forefront now. But like, that's one of the great things about being independent, and being self-produced, is like, you have all of this time, and you have the freedom and control to experiment with these types of things. So like, Brand of Sacrifice is supposed to be super over the top and like cinematic and larger than life when it comes to the sound. I think at least that was a goal that we set. So we really didn't want to limit ourselves in terms of what we were going to do during the production sort of cycle, and we just wanted to incorporate as much of that sort of electronic or cinematic influence as we could during that time, just because, like, why not? You know, why not try something new? You know, that's what it's all about. So.
And I think it brings, like, if metal has had a problem over the course of the last decade, I think it is a little bit being seen as yesterday's music. So when I hear modern elements, because it's not... The thing I love about your record when it comes to electronics is there's a lot of rock bands that try their hands at electronics, but it's done in a really ham-fisted way that is like, we've got a really basic canvas, best we just kind of crowbar some electronics or synths in to make it seem more interesting. Whereas it feels like such an integral part of your music. Like, where do you stand on bringing in truly modern elements? Because your electronics are not out of the 90s and not out of the noughties, and it's not just all sub-drops. Like, it's knowing, and it's very of the now.
I mean, I'm all for it. I think, you know, if you can do it, you should definitely try it and not be afraid to. I mean, with Brand, we have a whole span of influences sort of outside of just metal. Like, I think the very obvious one is video game soundtracks, and we admire people like Mick Gordon and Marty O'Donnell with the Halo series, and, you know, those types of people, Hans Zimmer in movies, and like, those people are also not purists in their own lanes, right? Like, they try new things outside of their own sort of sandboxes, and they incorporate different experiences and different elements of sound into those more traditional sort of lanes of entertainment. So we wanted to do the same thing, and I think that only helps extreme metal as a genre, because it's supposed to be extreme and it's supposed to be exciting. So yeah, I mean, I would, if it were up to me, I would highly encourage bands to try more of that stuff. And I think, you know, in some capacity they are, not even just in deathcore, but across the entire genre. There's tons of experimentation. Like Code Orange, I think, is a big one with their electronics. You could even still say Slipknot does that type of thing. In deathcore, Shadow of Intent is bringing all of these orchestral elements to the forefront. So I think it's still very present, and it's really good for the scene overall.
Video games is fucking cool as well, because video games is one of the very few... It's funny, man. Brand of Sacrifice are involved with two things that are massive in mainstream pop culture, and that are two of the only things that really incorporates metal, and that's video games and anime. When you listen to anime, like, theme music and fight scenes and things like that, you will always hear shred. And when it comes to video games, like you say... Especially Mick Gordon. I was lucky enough to speak to Mick last year. Like,
nice.
Like, man, yeah. Like, he came on and did the show, and I was in awe of chatting to someone who can really bring gnarly, angry, aggressive musical angles to something. And where do you stand on that side of things? Because to me, it's super cool that nothing is holding back on this album. Its success that we're seeing with everyone being into it is completely on its own terms, and there's not a play for radio or anything like that on the record. How much, like, is that fair to say, and how much of that do you even think about?
Well, I think, you know, funnily enough, being more palatable was definitely a goal for this new album. And like, when you really drill down and listen to the songs, each song is very structured, and it's easy to follow in terms of having like a verse, a pre-chorus, a chorus, a bridge, a breakdown, what have you. Like, that's in there. So we take from more mainstream rock and pop in that sense, where we want to incorporate that structure, but we also want to incorporate the chaos and some of the stuff that's a little bit harder to follow, but package it in a way where maybe someone who's not into extreme music or deathcore can sit down and appreciate it. So We do think about those things. I mean, I don't think we think about radio that much because it's just very uncommon.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think you could put Vengeance on Octane and it would do really well, but it's not up to me.
Yeah, I hear you.
I would love to see that though. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like we do think about that stuff sometimes when we're writing Brand of Sacrifice, which is kind of silly, but.
I don't think so, man. I think it shows ambition, which we'll get to when we talk about you deciding to go independent. But, I mean, is it fair to say that you are an ambitious band? Like, there's so many deathcore bands that are happy to, like, I don't know, be supporting Within the Ruins for 5 years running.
Sure.
And Brand of Sacrifice seem like a band that think bigger than that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're asking me personally, then yeah, we definitely think bigger than that. And I mean, we're totally happy to be supporting some super notable acts, especially in the next couple of years. Like, we're all for that. But we totally have like a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 2-year plan. We're always thinking about how we can take the next step because, like, I think that extreme music and alternative music is going to make its way back into pop culture. Like, it already is. Like, guitar-based music is coming back in full force. You see like artists like Ghostemane who are incorporating a bunch of like metallic hardcore into his biggest release yet. And MGK, Trippie Red, artists like that, like they're incorporating all of these sort of elements of pop punk and alternative rock into, genres that you might not typically see. So like, I think it's coming back. I think we're aiming for that because, I'm hoping that, it's going to grow more and more. It seems like it's going to, but that's sort of where I stand on that.
Like,
definitely ambitious.
If you could collaborate with anyone, when you throw that out there, if you could collaborate with anyone from outside the world of rock and metal, who would you see as being someone that you could do cool stuff with?
Outside of rock and metal, I don't know. I mean, would you consider... Well, okay, I'll say this. I think within the realm of like mainstream metal, baby metal would be a sick one. I think baby metal rules, and I think we could do some pretty cool stuff together. I haven't really thought about big artists outside of the genre because we're still moving in that direction. So like, I don't know if we're there yet. But I think baby metal would be a cool one within the genre. Poppy's like borderline outside of metal. I would love to work with Poppy. We're kind of thinking about artists like that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens.
What would you envision a baby metal Brand of Sacrifice mashup to sound like? Because I love the fact that 1 minute on a baby metal record you're in space, the next minute you're a pirate. Like, I love that it's just there's no rules and no holds barred. Like what do you imagine that sounding like?
Dude, I don't even know. Like, I have no idea, but I feel like it would be awesome. So
we've got Kyle in the chat as well. I would love to hear Kyle and Sue Metal trading barbs.
Dude, or maybe like even like Lil Uzi. I think Kyle's in there saying Juice WRLD.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see Juice WRLD, especially with the impact that he had on the kind of vocals that are getting big in pop punk. Massive.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, who knows? But I think it's going to get interesting over the next couple of years.
I agree.
When it comes to like extreme music and alternative music. I mean, everywhere you go, like if you go to H&M, you're going to see death metal t-shirts in there now. Like death metal logos are everywhere. So like it's coming. I'm telling you.
I love it. And I love the optimism about it because this is the fight that we've got to win, man. I love that you're in it with us.
Absolutely, all the way.
Do you think it helps that you're independent? Because as someone that has worked both inside the walls of the business and outside of the walls, and I've been lucky enough to kind of enjoy success on both different sides, the biggest thing that I think is the plus for being an independent artist in 2021 is you don't have to explain modern ideas to yesterday's world.
Sure.
What were you thinking when it came to going independent? Because I know for certain that there would have been record labels banging down your door, and I can only imagine the type of phone calls that you're going to get in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But in terms of going indie, there's a lot to unpack here. But I think like if any band is thinking about going independent, and they should be thinking about it, there's a lot of research that I think you have to do, and you really, really have to love the business side of the music industry. Because if you don't, and like some people don't, that's totally fine. Like some bands just want to be musicians and that's all they stick to, and that's totally respectable. A lot of people are successful on labels, a lot of artists are, but for us, I think because Brand of Sacrifice grew fairly quickly, we were exposed to the business side, and we're able to learn a lot of different aspects of relationship building in the industry, logistics, learn how to manage our finances and things like that. We were able to sort of take a crash course on that because we grew so fast.
What was the biggest mistake you made in that period?
The biggest mistake we made, I think, when we were in the after image, I think most of the mistakes that we made were prior to Brand of Sacrifice. And I think that's partly why Brand of Sacrifice grew as fast as it did, because we screwed up our previous projects so badly. We didn't ask the right questions. We didn't ask why things were happening. We didn't explore that business side at all. And, we were probably taken advantage of because of that, but it's our fault. It's not their fault.
Right.
So, we had to make a ton of mistakes before we were comfortable with embracing the business side and going independent and really being confident and putting our foot forward with, trying new things in our music, trying to embrace new business models in the music industry, getting away from the traditional record label, being self-managed, doing our own merch, our own marketing, our own production. That's like 7 or 8 years in the making, man. Like, yeah, we had to screw up so bad in order to learn that stuff. So luckily, most of the mistakes we made were in previous projects, and now we can be more comfortable in that. But yeah, that's what I would say to a band if they were looking to go indie, is like, you really got to love the business side, and you really have to do research.
I've got to say, I really admire the way that you launched the record with your own online video party. Like, we're all in lockdown and we're all fucking sick of it, man. And anything that can take us away from that for a short period of time, and something as cool as you felt part of the launch of the record as a Brand of Sacrifice fan. It's just cool ideas that keep things cutting edge. Again, thanks, I just think that's something that only independent artists can do.
I mean, I don't necessarily think it is, but I think we're lucky enough where
I don't see it anywhere outside of independent artists. I'm saying that right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, again, it comes with sort of being clued in on the business and marketing side of things a lot closer than we would be if we were on a label or if we had management. And that's always sort of been the nature of the business when it comes to Brand of Sacrifice. Like, we've always been leaned in on socials. We've always done the bulk of our own marketing. We have a really close-knit fan club. We were able to sort of see our fans' sentiment towards the band and take in feedback and incorporate their thoughts into the stuff that we do, which is, partly why I think we had like 8,000 viewers for that stream, is because we saw what our fans wanted, and we wanted to incorporate, what they saw in us into that stream. So it wasn't just about the music, it was about them too, and how, they helped us get to where we are. And our story is also their story. I firmly believe that.
Totally.
It's been that way since the beginning. So I think that's why it felt special, at least to us, was because it was sort of a communal effort in a sense. Even though they may not think of it that way, that's how I see it.
How do you build that when you write about something like Berserk as a band? Where do you build that relationship? Because usually I always associate things with lyrics or feeling and things like that. And is it that as well as the anime thing? How does that interaction, how does the anime side of things play in to that closeness between you and your fans?
Well, I think that's a part of it, but I think, also when Kyle wrote the lyrics for this record, there was sort of an inkling of positivity within those lyrics, like sort of a theme of uplifting and overcoming your demons, and achieving something great, which we wanted to sort of capture that energy and put it into the record, also from an instrumental standpoint. And I think people can get behind that. Like, metal is pretty negative when it comes to lyrical content. Like, we can definitely say that, and that's totally fine. Like, that's what the genre is built on,
man.
sort of rebellion, right? Exactly. So we kind of took a different approach this time, and we wanted again to capture that sort of larger than life feeling, and this feeling of like, oh yeah, we're going into battle and we're gonna win. Like, damn right, we're gonna win. So I think people could kind of see that and embrace that feeling and get behind it. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Is that something that you saw in Kyle? Like, I know that's a really personal question, but Kyle's got to embody that, right? Kyle's the guy with the mic putting that out there.
Listen, man, I've known Kyle for a long time. I mean, I lived with him back in 2013, and we've been writing music together ever since then, believe it or not. And yeah, he is the total embodiment of overcoming his demons and doing something great. And like, it's been amazing to see him go from, the vocalist in the Afterimage, and he was a great vocalist then, but now he is an absolute unit. He's a titan in this scene now, and he's earned it. Like, he's worked hard, and he's definitely an inspiration for me. And he's probably one of the reasons why I got into it seriously. But yes, he is absolutely the embodiment of that message. And a big reason for why we are where we are right now. So,
which way around did it go? Did you move in together to play music, or did you move in together and then play music?
Yeah, so I moved in with him to join the Afterimage, which was our band at the time, back in 2013. So like, we had done like a really short, small tour together in separate bands prior to that. But I think after that tour, I was doing some random music stuff locally, and I just reached out because I liked what the Afterimage was doing. And I was like, hey, if you guys need another guitarist, let me know. And that's sort of where the relationship started. And now, we're doing a totally different thing in a totally different genre. But yeah, we've stuck together for a number of years, and the writing process is super easy. I think we're always on the same wavelength, so it's great.
What was the old genre that you were doing?
We were doing, I guess you could call it metalcore. Like, it was definitely, it was pretty mathy. But yeah, it was like sort of a metalcore, sort of progressive gent kind of sound.
and now we're at album 2. There's been so much time to work on shit. Is it all about touring Lifeblood, or have you used this time to have more in the tank? Or because one of the things that is interesting is that you put Lifeblood out as an album, and when you're being independent, there's so many different views on the album as a format. Like,
yes,
like
right,
so how did you decide to distribute this album the way that you did? And also, like, are we going to hear more from Lifeblood, despite the fact that we have Lifeblood?
Oh man, I can't answer these questions. It's proprietary information. No,
that's good enough for me. You just answered the question without answering it. That's good enough for me.
But listen, man, I think you have a great point about the concept of releasing an album in 2021. Like, it's pretty dated. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Right. You feel that way?
Oh yeah. Think about it. The bulk of the attention that a band gets from an album is primarily fueled through the singles that you put out.
That's true.
And like your best songs. And that's usually where it ends. And I mean, there are cases where that doesn't happen, but yeah, I think, singles or short EPs, like Bring Me the Horizon's a great case study for what I'm talking about. Putting out sporadic singles and then sort of compiling an EP at the very end of it. Spirit Box is another great example. They put out like 2 or 3 singles last year, and look at where they are. I mean, it's a model you see in pop and mainstream rock a lot, and I think you'll probably see more of that.
So, is there any chance that this is the last album?
I really can't say. Like if
Was
you ask me now,
was this an internal debate you had in Brand of Sacrifice when it comes to Lifeblood? Am I reading between the lines here?
Oh, dude, we've had this conversation. Like we were talking about this late last year.
Right.
I think, for now, Lifeblood will probably be the last full length 12-song release that we put out for a little bit.
Right. Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense from where I'm sat. Leo, I've made you squirm enough, my friend. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I really admire you for the honesty in the questions. I know when asking things in that area, it can get a bit tricky. So thank you so much for the answers. Thank you for the music on Lifeblood. It truly is one of the best releases of 2021 so far. I've been so glad to play the singles here on the channel and to watch the reaction for every single one of them. People that come in completely blind to your band and leave devoted is fucking magic to watch, mate.
Hey man, I appreciate you spinning the tunes, and I'm glad you enjoy them, and I love your show. So
yeah, fuck yeah!
I always watch it. So dude, like, I'm elated to be here.
Leo, I appreciate it so much. All the best with the end of the week, and I hope it charts. Thanks, man.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man. We'll see.